everybody and welcome to a brand new video. And as you saw in the title of this video, today we're going to be talking about bopping. Bopping is a 1950s American dance. And yes, I will be using American as a gentilism in this video. We usually dance bopping to rockabilly music. And to understand where the dancing comes from, we're going to look at the historic context of the music. Rockabilly is a subgenre of rock and roll born in the 1950s, created in the United States, of course. And musically, it's a combination of rock and roll and folkloric hillbilly music like grassroots, country, stuff like that. Like the name says, rock-a-billy, rock plus hillbilly. In the combination of those two elements, we get the creation of rockabilly. Now that we understand where the music comes from, we can start looking at the dance. Whenever we start looking at the history of rock and roll dance, we find that at the beginning, all these dances, the jitterbug, the swing, the jive, were done regionally. That means that depending on what part of the country you were at, you were gonna dance it completely different. It wasn't until 1952 when a TV show based on Pennsylvania called the American Bandstand. It wasn't until then that the dancing itself started consolidating, since the dancers from coast to coast were able to see one very specific example on TV. Solidifying this way the social rules for dancing. And yes, we need social rules, because if everything is too regional, whenever you put somebody to dance, the possibilities to be able to dance together is really hard. So yes, we need to consolidate these dances. Usually rock and roll music was danced in couples, but whenever you were dancing solo, most likely you were gonna do freestyle jazz moves. A lot of improvisation, specifically whenever people dance by themselves. Right there, we have our rock influence within the bopping dance, which is a very loose dance, very freestyle, and with solo moves. Now that we look at the rock part of rockabilly, let's look at the hillbilly part. And at this point, we need to look at these rural dances that were popular within the hillbilly culture. We can find clogging or buck dancing, flat-footing, river dance, and other forms of folk dances that are originated in Europe, like England and Ireland, but at the same time they're very well rooted in American culture, specifically down the south. In the area of the Appalachian Mountains is where these dances are still relevant up to this day as part of the folk culture. And what is a hillbilly? It's a person of European descent that lives in mountain areas in rural parts of the country, since this is where a lot of these people settle themselves. Of course, killing and displacing the indigenous people of these areas, but that's another story. As we saw in these visual examples, if we see flat-footing or clogging, it has a lot of similarities on how we bop. And even though they're similar, they're not the same thing, because bopping has the element of swing and rock and roll solo moves. In the following examples, we can see the bopping dancers mix a little bit of rock and roll, swing, jazz, freestyle moves with the rhythmic stomping on the floor that clogging and flat-footing are. A very quick resume of all of these. Bopping is the combination of folk hillbilly dances with black American dances linked to rock and roll. There's usually not many rules and everybody just does whatever the music tells them to do. The only rule or the only common variant will be that everybody has to stomp on the floor rhythmically. Some people have argumented to me that hillbillies actually stole the dancing from Native Americans because they have a lot of similarities. But in reality, stomping on the floor rhythmically has no science. It's almost like an instinctive reaction to music. And it's not exclusive to any civilization in the world, since many civilizations repeat the act of stomping on the floor rhythmically. Nowadays, rockabilly is a subculture present all around the world. And yes, we have to acknowledge that sometimes in the United States or the UK, The rockabilly scene can be a little bit problematic because it has an element of racism. This is rooted in the ignorance on the hillbilly culture. There are usually very uneducated people on how the world works. And there is deep roots on racism in some of these scenes around the world. Personally, my scene from New York, I don't have this problem. Everybody gets well and the scene is very diverse. And even though it's something problematic, we cannot condemn a whole style just because some people in some countries hold into that 1950s ignorant, stupid idea of racism. We can also not deny the importance of black music in the creation of rockabilly. Without rock and roll, we will never have rockabilly. So this is all for today when it comes to the information on this video. Please let me remind you of the merch that I have available. You can also support this channel and become a patron for $10 a month, and that will give you access to Spotify playlists, dance tutorials, dance meditations, dance workouts, Zoom classes that I do 2 times a month, and a lot of other content that you can do at home, especially in this time of pandemia. This is a really good alternative with really fun rhythms like rockabilly, cumbia, rocksteady, ska. Trust me, I will cover all of your dance needs that you will not find anywhere else. I will see you next time, and thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I will see you next time. Bye bye.